Welcome back to another episode of In Swine Versation. Biosecurity, pig survivability, and labor issues with Joey Short, Farrowing Department Manager with Murphy Family Ventures. Welcome to the program, Joey.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're on a bit of a trajectory here talking to a lot of young, innovative North Carolina pork producers. So, really appreciate you making the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking me to be on. I'm excited to tell my story and see if we can talk about some other interesting topics as well.
Let's get right to it. Tell me about yourself, how you got started in the industry, and how that led to your career at Murphy Family Ventures.
Yeah, so I took I guess kind of a non-traditional approach to getting into the industry. I returned back to school in 2019. I was working for a family business and just kind of looking for a career change. I also wanted to finish my degree. Um, So went back to school and I happened to be sitting in a class one day and had a speaker come in who was a farm manager with a pretty big integrator here in North Carolina. And after that class, I kind of got interested in wanting to look at that as an option. So I started looking at some internships. Um, and got on with Murphy Family Ventures and spent the summer with them on a sow farm, actually the same sow farm I'm on now. And so that kind of led me into getting into the management, a little bit of a management position and as a trainee. And then shortly thereafter, I became the head of the department for Farrowing at Peters Creek Sow Farm. Um, and so I came up in agriculture. My family has a small cow calf operation, but no involvement in pigs. Really, no experience in pigs. I'd never been on a hog farm before that, so kind of jumped right in and just you know tried to tried to go all in on the industry and being involved and done several different things here with North Carolina Pork Council, and so it's been a fun journey and I'm excited about it. I'm super excited about it.
So, going back a little bit, you went to NC State. What did you study there? And then at that time, you weren't looking at the pork industry. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, that's right. So originally I started at NC State with animal science was my degree, with hopes of going to vet school. And, that just kind of got weeded out of that program as so many do. And so ended up switching to agricultural science and finished my degree in agricultural science. And like I said, wasn't really sure where it was going to take me. I just started kind of looking around, and the inspiration ultimately came from the farm manager that sat in on that class, and so it just kind of was. I guess one person's passion kind of led me to finding a career, in this industry and wanting to move forward with that, and it's led to me being very, passionate about what I'm doing and excited about the industry. So.
So, what's something unique about you and then Murphy Family Ventures?
Yeah, I would say that as far as me being unique is probably just how I came into the industry. I didn't have any family ties or really I wouldn't even say that I had like, oh, I was in college and I was taking some courses that kind of led me here. It was literally just a shot in the dark. I just came onto a hog farm and took a chance and like I said, it just turned into kind of where I feel like I'm supposed to be and where I want to be. And so I would say that's probably something that's unique about me. And this is I didn't really have any ties to the industry. Um, Murphy Family Ventures has a deep history in the hog industry here in North Carolina, and across the U.S. Is it started as a swine operation in the 1960s, and now we're a management company that has multiple different businesses that they run, but still obviously very involved in the hog industry. And we grow for Smithfield, and so we're contract growing, but But so I think that the rich history in Murphy Family Ventures is really what kind of pointed me in that direction to look here, and I think it's been a very good situation for me. I've learned from people that have been in this industry for 30 years. You know, my managers, production directors are all been doing this for 30 plus years. And so you gain lot of information, knowledge, you know, that's hard to come by.
Do you have a specific management or leadership style?
Yeah. So I think my management style would be, you know, just leading by example. Um, that's how I have learned best in anything that I've done is somebody that will actually sit down and show me how to do certain things. And I love being in the barns. You know, when I became into a leadership position, probably the hardest thing for me was delegating tasks because I like to go do it myself. You know, and so I think getting out there and showing people how to do the right things and just being involved in every step is huge for me, and it's helped me build a team around me that makes my job, you know, pretty easy on most days, as far as just because they know there's nothing that I ask them to do that I don't do. I'm right there with them the whole time, so that's, you know, that and I guess training. I love training. That's one of my favorite parts of my job is training people, new people, or training people that have been there. Training people that have been there longer than me is exciting for me. So
What is it about training? Is it just seeing kind of the learning, the growth, or is it something else?
yeah, I would say it's definitely the growth. I think it's kind of, you know, one of the most exciting things about farming to me is, and especially raising pigs, is you actually get to see that growth, right? So you actually get to see that product every day. I mean, it's you get to see the, you know, the work that you've put in kind of come through. And so it's the same with training people. Is, you know, you want to train somebody to be, I mean, I would say I want to train people to be better than me. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm that great, but I'm just saying that's the goal, is to have somebody that can go on and do whatever they want to do, whether it's on the hog farm or not. So yeah, I think the success, seeing other people's success, is motivating for sure.
What about biosecurity? I know that's a big point of emphasis for you.
Yeah, biosecurity is huge for us. And you know, we just had a recent PED outbreak. I'm our farm does batch production, so it's a little bit different than a weekly, you know, production. But we had a PED break probably two batches ago, and I mean, obviously, that's a complete disruption in production, especially on batch. I mean, this is a total loss, and so that was a very eye opening experience, and shows the importance of the biosecurity and, of course, the things that you do. And I think it's something that, as an industry, I mean, that's something that we'll always be working on, working to be better and doing different things, and you know, trying to get everything on board. You know, one of the things that I hear a lot listening through podcasts and sort of, you know, researching and stuff is, a lot of people say, you know, we're asking people to do a lot by doing these biosecurity measures. But the thing is this is protecting us, is protecting our industry, is protecting food. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. It's a huge deal to me, and I don't really think that asking somebody to take a shower to come into the farm and a shower when they leave. You know, one of the things we do at our farm that's a little bit different, I don't see a lot, is we have a tire wash station. You know, and that's pretty simple. That's a basic thing to just try to keep anything that you maybe picked up on the road at the road, you know, and not getting right there beside the barn. So, you know, I think that's one of those things that's all, we're always going to have to work to be better at that. Um, there's going to be new things that come around, new things that we haven't seen, things we haven't seen in a while on farms, that, I mean, we're going to have to be ready for when that sort of thing happens.
So you've kind of got the full approach to biosecurity, right from the truck, the tire wash, getting into the barn, and it's not extra work. It's more part of the process. for success. Any other philosophies, prevention, or anything we need to know about biosecurity?
Um, yeah, no, I mean, I think that's, I think just the understanding the importance of it. And like I said, the understanding that I don't think, like you said, I don't think that it's asking somebody to do more work. I mean, if you want to look at it that way, you can just say you're asking them to protect their work, protect their industry, and I think you got to have buy-in. You got to have buy-in from everybody involved to understand that importance and realize that we don't just do these things because we don't have a gate that's locked because we want to keep people out. We do it to protect the pigs. And so I guess that's the biggest takeaway from me is that it's not something that we can be complacent on. It's not something that takes days off. It doesn't. If you have one break in your biosecurity plan, then I mean, you put in a bunch of effort for really nothing because it's gone out the window. And I think we've seen that. It's hard to track it all down because it's like with our PED break, it's like, will we ever know really? I don't know. It's a very open system, and so it's hard to know really what part brought that. But all you can do is just have that strong plan and keep following it. And like I said, as more things evolve and we kind of get further along with knowing how different things are spread, just adding to it, always building on that.
What about pig survivability? I think, Joey, you have a 5-step program.
Yeah, so with the pig survivability, so that's kind of a hot topic. I think in industry, I think mortality, sow mortality is huge. I heard an interesting concept having a conversation with somebody that how can we discuss pig mortality without addressing sow mortality? Because without the sow, we have, I mean, you can't expect to raise pigs without sow. So I think that's probably a big start is where we can, and I think, and again, this is more, I'm looking at this from a different lens as far as like, yeah, the production, the economics of it, all that is important. I get that. I mean, there's a lot of money involved in this, but again, we're also talking about providing food. Um, and we got to have those pigs get to the market. I mean, that's how we survive in the industry, but also how we feed the population. So for me, the first thing I would mention is this is very basic and it seems so simple, but again, without this, you can just pretty much forget the rest. Food, water, environment. Um, when I first started on the farm, that was one of the things that the production director told me. He said, every day, food, water, environment. If you do nothing else, when you come to the farm, make sure that the sows have good food, they have water, and the environment is ideal for them. I mean, and I've stuck with that. I tell people that all the time when they start. So that would probably be my first step is to make sure that you have all those things handled. Um, a second step for me, as far as the survivability of pigs and of course sows as well, is the gilt selection or just having a breeding stock. Making sure that the gilts that we're bringing to the farms are not already having some lameness issues or condition issues. Making sure that what you're bringing into the sow farm is going to make it, and you're not going to end up with mortality or a sow that can't handle to have litters. Have pigs, and so I would say that's probably the first step is that step. And the reason I say just breeding stock and not overall gilt selection is on our farm, we don't actually get gilts. We get, parity sows. Um, so it's a little bit different for us, but it's the same idea. Um, the second for me is the individual care of sows. Identifying sows as quick as you can. Again, it sounds like a pretty simple thing, but you are asking a lot for, one or two people or one person to go into a barn with 1,000 sows and asking them to look at every single one of them. That's a lot. Um, but that's important to try to identify those animals and make sure that all those animals are getting up and they're eating, and they're not suffering from being lame or whatever, may be happening. So that would be my third step. And then of course for me with farrowing is assisting with the weak born pigs, um, getting them to the underline, getting them on the colostrum, make sure they're getting the same intake, the same opportunity that the strong pigs are. Um, so that's a huge step for us. And then lastly, again, this is kind of coming from my experience on the sow farm is weaning, highly viable pigs. Um, Getting them to the next step, getting pigs to the nursery that are going to make it through to the finishing phase and make it to the market. So that's probably my 5 steps on that. I mean, there's a lot more involved in pig survivability. I mean, you know, I think that the mortality thing is very important. I think it's something that's got to be addressed, and I look forward to kind of where that's going and how we can improve on that in the future for sure.
So from pig survivability to labor issues, I know there's a few things we want to address with that, but what are you finding specifically with Murphy Family Ventures or personally on the labor side?
Yeah, so the labor issue is tough. That's not just tough for our industry or any particular company. I think that's pretty tough for everybody right now. You know, getting people to come to work, not only that, but getting people to work that's a pretty labor intensive work. So that's probably our biggest problem is getting people out. I have a really good team right now on my particular farm, but we have one position that's pretty much a revolving door. It's just and it's just kind of like we get somebody. It's high turnover. It's just so it's hard to get that complete team. But like I said, I don't know that that's really something that's just us or I think everybody's kind of dealing with the same thing. So, um, I think there's a lot of competition from other industry. There's a lot of competition within our industry. I mean, growers are competing for the same employee pool every day. Every day. If somebody's paying somebody more, then people jumping ship. I mean, that's just how it goes. So, that's a very difficult thing to do, and I'm not so sure that there's going to have to be probably some reform as far as with immigration workers and stuff like that eventually, and hopefully some technology. I think technology is going to be huge um, for our industry to kind of try to take some pressure off of the caretakers.
So how would some technology help with labor?
Well, so I'll give you one example that we're using now on my particular farm, and we have a couple of our. I think there's probably 3 or 4 different farms in our operation that's using. We're actually using a pressure washing robot. Um, it's a it's been a huge help for us because in the batch situation we have 16 farrowing rooms that are all having to be cleaned within 3 days, 3 4 days. So the machine probably does around 80 to 85%, and then we just have teams, 2 people come in behind it and clean it up. So you're cutting down on the amount of labor time per the person. Now, granted, you still have to have somebody there to run the machine and operate the machine and move the machine and make sure everything is kind of working right. But um, overall, that's been a huge time saver for us. And really, it makes it feasible for us to make the turn that we do and get sows back in the Fairwind house and actually have a good cleaned up farm. So that's just one example. I think there's some other great uh, softwares out that I've kind of looked at and that kind of help get people where they need to be instead of just checking on every single sow. And yes, you have to check on every single sow, so I don't want to take it that way, but kind of identifying your at-risk sows. And so I think there's a lot of good things that are on the market. I think there's good things that are coming. And so I think that's going to end up being where where we're able to kind of take some pressure off of the caretakers, take some pressure off of, I mean, everybody that's involved. I mean, it's hard to, I just don't know where we're going as far as finding new people to work in our industry. I mean, that's seeming to be harder and harder to do.
The power washing robot's a good idea. I know every pig has some good software. Now, recruiting. So, do we need to keep recruiting in the swine industry, or do we need to think outside the box? Kind of like how you were recruited, even though you were in animal science. Like, how do we recruit new people to the industry? Because our industry has so many different types of jobs. Any thoughts
Right.
on that?
Yeah. So I think, honestly, I think as far as the farm level, I mean, as the industry in whole, I mean, yeah, I think we have to do some recruiting and try to, even try to seek out some people that maybe aren't looking specifically at the swine industry, like you said, that maybe just we got to make the opportunities available. I think that's probably the biggest thing is, I mean, for me as somebody that didn't have any connections to the industry, it wasn't the easiest to come across this job. I mean, like, sure, you can go on Indeed and search like farming job, and you might get lucky and something come up. But yeah, I think making it more available is going to be huge. The other thing that I think is important too is that's paid off a little bit from us is kind of starting that recruiting early. Um, I'm talking high school early, you know, and that can turn into some pretty cool situations. I've got a guy that works on the farm now that he literally graduated high school and went right to work for us. And I mean, I think this guy has potential to be a farm manager one day. Um, and I'm not saying that we need to pull everybody out and tell them not to go to college. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying exposing early exposure to our industry can lead to somebody, finding a career. Maybe they go to college and then decide to come back to work on the farm or beyond. It's a tough. It's the labor issue is tough because working, like you said, even within our industry, we're competing with so many different areas. That obviously the pay is varying, and of course pay is a big deal. I mean, if you're not paying top dollar, you're going to have a hard time.
You ready for some hot topics, Joey?
I am, yeah. Let's go for it.
So let's start with pork products, underrated, underappreciated, and the versatility of our products compared to other meat options.
Yeah, so that's kind of that's a hot, definitely a hot topic for me because I think ultimately the way that we're going to and I think we'll probably go into this more later, but the way that we're going to expand the industry or build our industry is by demand. And I think that telling these stories, and trying to show what we're doing as an industry and who we are, but building that product and what it's usable, how you can use it, the visibility in the market. I know there was a campaign with the National Pork Board where they did some shelf casing work in a particular store and had some great results. And it's kind of like what we should be doing that everywhere. There should be a pork, a pork section in every supermarket. I mean, and so I think doing something like that, increasing our visibility in the market. As far as versatility, I mean, I'm I'm big into smoking, grilling, cooking, that sort of thing, and it's hard to beat the versatility of pork and all the different things you can do with the different products and different cuts. And so I think that I think we could be more competitive with other meat products. You just got to kind of figure out how we can get into that market and do that. And the other thing with the way prices are right now is, um, we might not be in such a bad situation having a little bit more affordable, meat product right now. So we may see some increase in that. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I thought visual appeal as well, like in a butcher shop, having like a glass display case featuring high-end pork products, and how you market it kind of builds a bit of a presentation to the consumer, things like that. What about, I know you guys recently got PED, but in general, with everything else going on, is that kind of becoming forgotten, or what do you think? What are you hearing out there?
I don't think I think here in North Carolina, PED is not forgotten. I don't think I think that it's hit hard enough here recently and widespread that it's definitely not. Now there's some other things, that have um, PERS, there's some different that have hit on a whole different level, and of course there's, other things that are floating around that are at risk of being here. And so maybe PED isn't as top of mind. Um, but that one for me that one's fresh in the mind. So that is certainly not forgotten for me. I mean, that's that. Yeah. I don't think it's forgotten, and hopefully it won't ever be forgotten, really, because the best thing we can do that is keep that away for sure.
Any thoughts on consolidation?
Yeah. So I'm assuming you mean as far as,
Just the larger kind of integrators keep getting bigger, smaller, less family farms.
yeah, I mean, I have a few thoughts on that. I would say that, we grow for one of the biggest integrator. So, I think that there's some benefits for people that potentially couldn't be independent producers, okay, and make that work. But I certainly would not want to see the independent growers go away. Um, and of course, as far as consolidation and meat packers and that sort of thing, I mean, that's a tough one too, because you're eliminating some of the competition. You're taking away some of that competitive edge, and of course, you run into some issues there, and of course, people not being able to get their product to the market. So definitely would not want to see it go away. I think there's some benefit. I think there's benefits to both sides. That's kind of my thoughts on that.
What about Prop 12?
Yeah, so Prop 12 is definitely a hot topic. So I'm not really sure. I think the biggest takeaway on the Prop 12 thing for me is that there's no clear understanding of really what is expected of that. Obviously they've passed that in California. I, but from my understanding is there's people that are making some pretty big changes to, um, meet those guidelines, but I don't know that there's actually crystal clear guidelines and who's enforcing that. So that's one of those things that hopefully we can, as an industry, we can overcome. And I'm not opposed to all change, but there's certain things that I think are a little bit unreasonable.
What is the key for consistent success at Murphy Family Ventures?
Yeah, so I think the keys are going to end up, for Murphy Family Ventures, and I think this can pretty much go anywhere. Is for me, it's the culture, the work culture, and that I think that affects everything. I think that affects your labor issues. I think that affects your productivity. If you have a real strong culture where people want to work, people can enjoy the work and get involved. Um, which I'd like to touch on that too in a little bit about as far as getting people involved outside of the farm. But so culture is huge. That's been huge for me is the opportunities to be out in the industry, not just be stuck on the hog farm. Um, and of course, efficiency, like I said, as far as with the technology and that sort of thing, is we've got to figure out a way to be more efficient. We are good at what we do. We're very good at what we do. Um, but I think if we can, you know, address mortality issues and certain things like that, I mean, we can be super efficient. And of course, with technologies, you can just increase that and take some of the load off the people on the ground. And lastly, I would say communication has been huge for us. It's within Murphy Family Ventures, 20 20 something sow farms, whatever. It's a competition, but the communication has gotten pretty strong where everybody talks about what's working, what's not working. Biosecurity issues that somebody may be having on one particular farm, how are we addressing that? So I think communication is going to be a big factor for, within the same systems as well as outside of the same systems, and trying to help everybody in the industry try to be better. And so I would say those are probably would be my keys to success.
How do we realistically expand the swine industry?
Um, Ultimately, we have to, see the demand increase for our product. I mean, that kind of goes back to the, are we underrated, underappreciated? I think we are. We just have to figure out how to get that demand up. I think, as far as expanding now, I don't think there's a ton of expansion. There's certainly not in North Carolina. I would say it's probably the opposite. I would say that the sow herd, the herd is decreasing. But I think with certain genetics, and not just certain genetics, I mean, I think that we're, because of the efficiency, we're going to be able to produce the same amount of pork with less herd, with less sow herd. So I think the demand, we just have to, there has to be a way. And like you said, whether you're going into butcher shops or and increasing that visibility, the product, the different products, not just ground pork. There's ground pork with different, there's different grades. I mean, and it's just stuff you don't typically see. So I think that and like I said, the promoting the versatility of pork is in my opinion is going to be huge. And of course, then there's other factors that we have to address as far as um, you know, consumer relations and then policy, going back to Prop 12. I mean, those things are going to come up, probably till the end of time. So that's just things that we're going to have to deal with and try to get people on board with us and keep moving forward.
So we're going to wrap up the show with the congratulations. I know you were chosen as an emerging leader to receive the award for NC Pork. So can you tell me what this means and exactly what is this award?
Yeah, so it's a huge deal for me. I would feel very honored to receive that award. What's pretty cool for me that came full circle too is I'll just tie this in back to the beginning. I've mentioned that there was a farm manager that kind of came to a class, and so actually in 2020, so that was in 2019. Well, in 2020, she actually won the same award. So 3 years later to be picked to go to receive that same award, that was pretty cool for me. Because she kind of was the first inspiration to get into the industry. So um but no, I think that the award is somebody that's putting in some effort and some time and trying to hopefully be. I mean, for me, it's hopefully to become a positive voice for the industry and help promote the industry. Um, I've been fortunate that I've been able to do, like I said, some different things with North Carolina Pork Council, and I was part of a leadership. They had a leadership class this year, and I was able to be involved in that and got to see some different sides of the industry through doing that. So, um, yeah, I'm very honored to accept that award, and I'm excited. I'm motivated to hopefully, like I said, be a strong voice for the industry.
Well, congratulations. Keep up the good work, Joey, and thanks for joining us on In Swine Versation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jim. It's been fun.